Hey everyone, Britt Albert here. If this is your first time here, I'm a spiritual transformational life coach. It's my goal for this channel to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. In today's video, I want to talk about intrusive thoughts and tell you a little story that happened to me recently. This is probably something that you can relate to. Have you ever been lying in bed and you're just about to go to sleep, and a thought comes into your head and reminds you of that embarrassing thing that you did in middle school so long ago that probably nobody remembers, but it's tormenting you and you can't get it out of your mind, and all you want to do is just shake it off and push it back down where it came from and bury it? For me, this actually happens most of the time when I'm driving. Because when I'm driving, my mind is at peace, especially if it's on a long road trip and I'm on the interstate and there's not a lot of traffic and you're just kind of just going. That's when intrusive thoughts come and they find me. Now, the actual definition of an intrusive thought is thoughts that seem to become stuck in your mind. They can cause distress since the nature of the thought might be upsetting. They may also reoccur frequently, which can make the concern worse. Intrusive thoughts may also be violent or disturbing. So one of the things that I wanted to look up was that actual definition of what is an intrusive thought. Some people would say that an intrusive thought is only something that's extremely disturbing or upsetting, and that would be the later part of that sentence, the later part of that definition, which talks about them being very violent and disturbing. And that might be you're having a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden you just envision their death, or you envision causing their death, either strangling them or stabbing them. And it scares a lot of people because you're not thinking about that and you would never do that. And that's why these are called intrusive thoughts. These are thoughts that you do not intend to think. So when we receive intrusive thoughts, we have a tendency to take ownership of them. Intrusive thoughts are literally just energy leaving the body. If you were to take an actual spark of electricity, you don't judge the spark for just breaking off from the electricity and doing its thing. It's not even necessarily the full line of electricity itself. It's just a fracture that comes apart from it. It's just energy moving and sparking and spurting. It is not the lightning bolt. It is just a spark. So when we are processing energy through our bodies, our brains are really, really good about attaching an identity to what we're experiencing. Women, if you have experienced the time of the month, you understand. Sometimes we are emotional for no reason and it's just hormonal. But our brains are very good about telling us we're emotional for a specific reason, right? If you're not paying attention of that time of the month and when your cycle is and where you're at in your cycle, and all of a sudden you're just crying and you don't know why, or you're really mad and you don't know why, we may be overreacting to a certain situation or person or event. But in the moment, we don't know that. We're not realizing that because our brain is convincing us that it's because of this person or event or situation that is causing our distress or frustration. So the same thing when we receive intrusive thoughts. You are not the thinker of those thoughts, because if you were the thinker of those thoughts, you could choose not to think those thoughts. But it already says in the definition that an intrusive thought is a thought that gets stuck in your mind. So you're not the thinker of that thought. You did not think that you wanted to harm that person if it's the more violent approach to it. You are not the person that thinks that, because if you were, you could choose not to think that. So look at your brain as a computer system. This energy is passing through coding the language that your brain speaks, okay? The energy that's moving passes through your codex, and it matches vibrationally with a word or a scene or something that your brain is familiar with. So because it matches vibrationally, your brain is going to put words and pictures to it. It actually has nothing to do with those words or pictures. But your brain is saying, oh, I'm feeling this feeling, therefore this is what this means. And your brain is just doing what a brain does. The brain is not trying to trick you. The brain's only job is always to protect you and to give you the information that it receives to the best of its ability. So your brain is not the thinker of the thoughts. Your programming is just performing within the limitations of its ability. Our brains are not seeing all that there is. Your brain knows when you think about it consciously that your heart is beating, but the brain is not consciously telling the heart to beat. So your brain is taking this information, this energy that's moving through your body, and it's giving it meaning. The meaning doesn't actually exist. But I will tell you one thing that I learned about intrusive thoughts, and that is that they can be carriers of information to help you understand what you're processing at the moment and why. When something is coming up over and over again, it's asking for your attention. If a situation is coming up and it's the same energy, but it's a different situation time and time and time again, it's asking to be healed, or it's asking to be acknowledged, or it's asking just to be looked at. Once we do that, we actually allow it to leave our body. We allow the energy to pass through us. Energy is not meant to be stagnant, it's meant to flow. What happens is we are the ones that grab onto that energy and we hold it within the body and we harness it, and that's when it becomes toxic. That's when it becomes harmful, because we resist allowing it to move through. How can we allow it to move through? We feel it. And it's not always comfortable or fun to feel. So I'll give you the example of what happened to me the other day. I was taking a long road trip. My family just moved to Florida and we live in South Carolina. And on the way driving back from Florida to South Carolina, we had about 8 hours. And along this drive, my brain just started to drift and started to wander. It was a straightaway and there was no traffic, and it was really relaxing, and it was quiet in the car. Kids were on their iPads, on their phones. My husband was trying to take a nap. And all of a sudden I had this memory from middle school and then a secondary memory from high school, and they both came into my mind at the same time. I wish I could tell you even what the memory was, because I know it wasn't even something that was that bad. But to me, the moment, my brain automatically said, I can't breathe. When I feel embarrassment, that's one of my trigger emotions. And it's not always embarrassment or shame for somebody, but for me, it is. It's a very triggering emotion, because to me, embarrassment says that there's something wrong with me, or that I am not good enough, but we'll get into that in a second. And so the moment that I have these intrusive thoughts and these memories from my past about these embarrassing things that I did in middle school and high school, I am so efficient at reburying them that now that I'm actually trying to heal this part of me, it takes actual effort and work to say, whoa, 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 slow down. Why is this coming up now? What needs to be seen? Because I know that once I heal this, I'm not going to say it'll never come up again, but if it does come up again, it won't have the same effect on me, because then I'll say, oh, I already healed that. And I'll let it just go. Let it go from me, and it won't have this judgmental hold on my body anymore. So these memories, they came up, and instantly I said, I can't breathe. In my mind. I didn't say it out loud. I don't want to scare my family. I am dramatic in my mind, okay? When I don't want to feel something, my body goes into panic mode, and what it says is I can't breathe. And I have to remind myself, yes, you can breathe. Take a deep breath. Feel the air in your lungs. My throat, it gets tight because I'm repressing crying or whatever emotion, tears, speaking my truth, all of those things. When I feel that kind of emotion, when I feel embarrassment or shame, I feel like my throat is getting tight, and that's why my brain says I can't breathe. Even though I can breathe, there's no obstruction. My airways are clear, and I have to remind myself of that, and I have to prove it to myself. I have to just breathe slowly for a minute, breathe deep, feel the air going through my throat, going into my lungs, coming out of my lungs as I exhale, and prove to myself that the airway is clear. Even if here I think I can't breathe, here I can feel I really can breathe, and can that be enough? Can I sit with the feeling and the thought that I can't breathe, understanding that in reality, my body is safe, I am okay, I can breathe. And this exchange happens in the fraction of a second. It doesn't take this long. It's longer to explain it to you than it actually is in the moment. I'm able to do it like that and just take one breath in, one breath out, and I've walked myself through it. I'm like, okay, I'm fine, I'm good. But then I normally would have just left it at that. And while doing that, the moment that I say I can't breathe, the moment I feel my throat tightening up is the very moment I told you I'm very efficient at this. So are you. The moment that I feel like I can't breathe and that my throat is closing up is the very moment that I reburied those memories. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to feel what they were making me feel. So again, like I said, I've been through too much now to allow myself to rebury things because it's always going to keep coming up. It's always going to need to be seen. If I bury it deep, it's just going to take more time, and down the road, years later, it's going to finally come to the surface again to be dealt with. So let's just deal with it now, shall we? So I was driving and had this internal conversation, and I said, okay, I know this is coming up for a reason. It's coming up now because it's safe to come up now. It's coming up now because I'm ready to deal with it now. It wouldn't be coming up now if I wasn't ready. It wouldn't come up now if it wasn't safe. So let's go ahead and honor this. And I said, what is this feeling? I didn't even know at the time it was embarrassment. I just felt this thing immediately. My body responded. My brain said I can't breathe, pushed it down, went through the motions. Again, all of that I just told you about. I wasn't even sure what the emotion was behind the memory. I didn't even get the full memory. It was just a flash of a memory. So I had to pause, go back inside, and ask myself, what was it about this memory that is asking to be seen, that's asking to be heard? And it was embarrassment. I was embarrassed by, I can't even remember what it was. It was so small. Probably just said something stupid in front of a group of friends. I don't know. It was this feeling of embarrassment. And so I said, okay, I know that everything in life comes from one of two things. Either comes from fear or it comes from love. And if it's not coming from love, it's coming from fear. But you don't always start from fear. Sometimes you got to figure out how it is coming from fear because it's masked in all of these different emotions in different ways. So I said, okay, what is embarrassment? And I had to feel what was true about this particular memory. And then it made me realize that it was shame. And I had to ask myself, well, what is shame? But before I got into that, I had to understand there was actually above the embarrassment, there was pride. Now, pride comes before embarrassment and shame because pride's job is to protect you from the experience of feeling the embarrassment and shame. In my memory, I was fearful of being exposed as stupid or ignorant or whatever the memory was. There was a fear of being exposed and being judged. And because I agreed with the judgment, pride was there to help me push it away. Sometimes we are afraid of being exposed as being fake. We're afraid of being exposed as a fraud because we don't necessarily believe in our own strength or our own value. We could have fear of being exposed as being a hypocrite because at the end of the day, every single one of us has been a hypocrite at least once in our life. We could have a fear of being exposed as being bad. And again, it's our own judgments of what we decide is bad or good. And sometimes we'll lash out at other people and it will come in the form of anger or rage because we're like a cornered animal and pride is doing everything it can to keep us from accepting responsibility or feeling that shame or embarrassment. And again, I say accepting responsibility not because we deserve responsibility, but that's how we're feeling in the moment. And pride is there to protect us from experiencing these things So this is what's coming before we even experience the actual emotion. But not all the time do we express it as anger and rage. Sometimes it comes in the form of shutting up, closing ourselves off, having the protective body language. I have an actual space, a buffer between my physical body and you as we're having a conversation. I'm closing myself off. I'm protecting my heart. I'm protecting my lungs and my vital organs. I'm done with this conversation. I don't want to go any further. So I'm cutting you off. I'm going to stop talking. I might just walk away. So it doesn't always appear as anger or rage. Sometimes it's just quiet. And that's also pride protecting you from having to experience the feelings of embarrassment or shame. So getting back to my moment in the car, when I realized that the memory was embarrassment, that's what I was feeling in the memory, it was embarrassment. And I said, what is embarrassment? And to me, the energy that was behind the embarrassment was shame. And this one took a lot longer. I had to sit there and I actually had to get my family involved and I had to ask them as well. And I said, what is shame? What is shame? I'm trying to peel back the layers like an onion. How can I find fear? Like, where's the fear in this? I know this is coming from a place of fear, but where is the fear? What is shame to me in this moment? And I realized that, shame is being exposed, being vulnerable, being open, being seen, and ultimately being judged. But beyond that, shame is also the agreement in the perceived or received judgment. Whatever the judgment that we're afraid of receiving is because we already believe in that judgment of ourselves. We have agreed within ourselves about that judgment, that idea, and it's buying into the belief that we are less than, that sometimes something is our fault. That might not be the case for all shame with all of your experiences, but for this particular memory that was coming up for me, it was this judgment of, it's my fault for saying something stupid. It's my fault for not knowing the right thing to say, or my fault for not knowing who I was, it was my fault for wanting to be accepted and be what I perceived, what I judged myself as desperate in that situation. Again, I wish I could remember what it was I even thought I said. It could even be a fake memory. I don't even know. But I remember that it was a scene with me and my friends, and I said something that was stupid, and I judged myself for being desperate and wanting the acceptance of my peers, my friends. And there was guilt associated with that as well. And ultimately, there was the fear. It was the fear of being exposed and the fear of being judged. But if I really felt shame in the moment, the actual feeling of shame that I was feeling in this intrusive thought wasn't coming from the fear of being exposed. It was coming from my agreement with those judgments that I was afraid to receive from other people. I hope that makes sense. Comment below if that makes sense, or comment below if that doesn't make sense. And what are some intrusive thoughts that you've had? Also, while I'm thinking about it, if you have not hit the like button, please hit the like button, and also subscribe for more videos like this, because this is kind of the direction this channel is moving into. There's always been videos like this, but I'm starting to tell more and more of my personal stories and my personal experiences, because at the end of the day, we can only teach what we know. We can only talk about what we know. So what I know is what I'll share with you guys. So now, how do we move into not feeling shame anymore? How do we move into stopping intrusive thoughts? How do we move into combating these intrusive thoughts and getting our life back? How can you move into escaping from the distress that these intrusive thoughts cause? The answer is going to be simple. And And it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, this is simple, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. No, this is simple and it's easy. The only thing that would stop this from working is if you didn't want it to work. And you're like, well, Britta, who would not want this to work? Well, if you have guilt, most of the time guilt tells us that we deserve to suffer. If you believe you deserve to suffer, you will suffer until you no longer believe that you deserve to suffer. That would be the only thing that would keep you from being able to let go of these intrusive thoughts. And for that, you just got to give yourself grace and understand that when you're ready, you'll be able to do this. You heal it. That's how you take its power away. And that's what I did. That's why I called it back up. I recognized, hey, this is happening now for a reason. This intrusive thought is coming to the surface for a reason. Why? Is it so that I can heal this memory of this embarrassing thing that I said? No. It's the energy behind it. It's not the memory that's asking to be healed. It's the emotion of shame. That is using the memory as a catalyst to come to the surface. So you heal it. How do you heal it? Self-forgiveness. What I did is I took myself through a clearing of the beliefs and the judgments. And I said, I forgive myself for judging myself as being desperate. I forgive myself for judging myself as wrong for wanting to be accepted as a kid. I forgive myself for judging myself as being less than, for not knowing the right things to say. I forgive myself for judging myself as being less than perfect at the age that I was. So now I've forgiven the judgments. Now I need to forgive myself for having bought into the belief. I forgive myself for having bought into the belief, the misunderstanding and the misinterpretation that there was anything wrong with me at that age and I was anything less than perfect. The truth is, I handled myself to the best of my ability for the age and maturity and experience that I had at the time. And I forgive myself completely. I forgive myself for having bought into the belief, the misunderstanding, and the misinterpretation that saying something in the want and the need and desire to be accepted is wrong or desperate. The truth is, it is a very part of the human experience and the human existence for us to want to be connected with other people, because at the end of the day, duality does not exist and we all are one. So we have this innate desire within us to want to be part of the collective, to realign with one another, because we know at the core of our being, whether we're conscious or unconscious about it, that we are all one. I forgive myself completely. And I just breathe into it. Take a deep breath in and then exhale. And I did this while I was driving. When you take yourself through this and you become so good at taking yourself through this, and you have to do it, just because you've done it once and you know the right words to say, it does not mean that you just bypass it because you know how to do it. No, you have to do it still. I've done this so many times with my coach. My coach works with me, Candy, and I will include a link to her channel below because she is amazing and y'all should check her out too. And she has helped me work through a lot of this as well. And she is the one who taught me this. She's the one who's taking me through this so many times that now I take myself through this and I share this with you as well. You have to take yourself through it. Forgive the judgments, then forgive the beliefs. Then you state what the truth actually is, and you forgive yourself completely. You're no longer in a situation where you feel fear and you feel powerless and you feel like these intrusive thoughts have control over you. You feel compassion for yourself. You feel understanding and love and acceptance for yourself, and they have no power anymore. To say intrusive thoughts will stop, I can't tell you that they will. Because again, it's just energy that's moving through your body that your brain, as the computer, and the master translator is trying its best to tell you, hey, this is what I'm receiving, this is what this means. It is an incorrect translation of the energy that's passing through you. So I can't tell you that intrusive thoughts are going to stop, but I can tell you you're not the thinker of those thoughts. And this is how you can handle them. Instead of suppressing them and reburying them and running from them and resisting them and staying in this distress for minutes to hours, how can you take your life back, and how can you shift into a place of peace? Understand, okay, what is this showing me right now? And when it's something that is, like I said, the more ugly side of intrusive thoughts, where it's the more violent and it's very fear-based. On that same trip when we were driving to Florida, my son told me that he had like 4 intrusive thoughts back to back to back, where he just saw us dying. He saw us getting into a car accident. He saw the bridge that we were about to go over falling beneath us. He saw a sinkhole opening up in the earth and everybody falling inside. But he understands that that's not him creating that. That's not him manifesting that. That is intrusive thoughts. And part of you can just be like, huh, interesting. And just know you're not the thinker of the thought, so you don't judge yourself for thinking the thought. You're not creating the thought. You're not going to manifest the thought. Your light is more powerful than those thoughts. The intention of the light that's inside you is more powerful than intrusive thoughts. They literally could not happen. Not to say that there can't be earthquakes that cause bridges to fall, or sinkholes to open up, or car accidents that happen. But none of those things happened on our drive, even though my son saw them in his mind. They are intrusive thoughts. They're not you thinking them. So how do you let those go, especially the ones that are really scary and really disturbing? Can you have compassion for yourself and understand that your brain is giving you a mistranslation from the energy that's just passing through your body? I know those things are scary. I know some of the gorier things, you don't want to see them. But if you can allow it to just move through your body without judgment, then it does not have a hold on you, and it won't build a home inside your mind that will continue to torment you. And if this is something that you need some extra help with, please, there is a link in the description below for a free definition session with me. It's 30 minutes. It's completely free. You and I, we talk on the phone, we book a Zoom call, you look at my calendar, pick out a time that works good for you, and we have a conversation, and maybe I can help you through this. And if not, then you'll at least have had 30 minutes of somebody listening without judgment. Maybe that's something that you haven't had before either. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here with me. I hope you have a great holidays, whatever you celebrate. And I will see you next time.